So in this exercise, we're going to focus on our wrists, okay? So we're going to be opening and closing and flexing and extending, and then we're going to be working in different planes, okay? So the first thing I'm going to do is, I like to do this on my knees. You could also do this standing if you want. So it's personal preference. A lot of these things that I do for my knees, you can do standing if you want. It doesn't really make a difference. I like to do it for my knee position, okay? So all I'm going to do from here is go to I just want to bring my hand straight out in front of me like I'm sleepwalking, okay? From here, I'm going to start off by extending my palms up, okay? From this position, I also want to extend my fingertips apart as far as I can, okay? First part of the motion is I'm going to externally rotate my shoulders as far down as I can. And now from here, I'm going to I'm pulling back on my fingertips I'm trying to pull the back of my hand towards the back of my forearm as I keep my fingers opened up as far as I can, okay? As you can see, this is difficult to do. You need to be very intentional about pulling back and opening at the same time, okay? We're going to hold this for about 5 seconds. Now from here, I'm going to close and make a fist as tight as I can, and I'm going to be pulling the back of my wrist towards the back of my forearm for another 5 seconds. And then I'm going to internally rotate up, continuously pulling back as hard as I can on that. And from here, I'm going to open up my wrists, open up my hands, okay? That's the first part of this exercise. So one more time. Extend, rotate. I'm opening my fingers, I'm pulling my wrist back, closing my fists, pulling my wrist back of my hand towards the back of my forearm, rotating back up, I'm holding this position. Okay, I'm pulling the back of my hand, I'm fully extending, intentionally the entire time trying to pull that back as hard as I can, and I'm straightening it out. I'm opening up my fingers. Okay, so now I want to do is the same thing. Okay, starting off extension. Okay, rotate, close, pulling it back. Now I want to change the plane. Okay, maybe I'll come back low with one and high with the other. Okay, I'm doing the same motion. I'm pulling the back of my hand towards the back of my forearm and I'm fully extending it. And maybe rotate here, just switch my positions. Okay, meet back in the middle. The entire time I'm doing this, I'm pulling the back of my hand to my forearm, trying to extend my wrist as much as I can the entire time. Now I'll come back out to the front. I'll rotate back up. And I'll open my hands, pulling those fingers apart as far as I can, pulling the back of my hand as much as I can, then going back to my starting position, and then resting. Okay, it's very. You're gonna feel you're gonna feel forearm workout when you do this. Okay, if you have the proper intention, these exercises are very hard to do. Okay, if it's too easy for you, you need to make sure you're pulling back and being more intentional with the movements, okay? When I get to the position where my hand is here, I'm not just content with coming here and stopping. I can hold this all day. As I do this, I want to pull, like as if there's a line coming from my middle knuckle here up to my shoulder. I want to pull this knuckle up to my shoulders as hard as I can, okay? Extending this the entire time. That's the intention that makes these exercises effective, okay? So you're gonna rest out for a couple seconds after that. Now we're gonna go the opposite way, okay? I'm going back out to the sleepwalking position here. This time, I'm gonna flex my wrist, okay? My fingers are open, okay? My wrists are down. Now I'm gonna rotate them up. From here, pulling my fingers towards my shoulders, trying to keep my fingers separated as far apart as I can. Elbow straight, 5 seconds. Now I'm going to make a fist. And I'm going to pull my fist, flexing as hard as I can. Rotating back down. flexing my wrist as hard as I can, pulling my fingers towards my body. And come back out, shake out my fingers, okay? You can play around with this. You can do whatever combinations you like on this one, okay? You don't have to just follow exactly what I'm saying, okay? The goal of this is to flex and extend while you're pulling your fingers, and flex and extend while you're making a fist, and then get that into different planes of motion, above your head, out to the side, behind your body more. So you could come out with it here and then pull back as far as you can as you're doing this. You can do hands opposite positions. You could do the same thing. You can mirror. You can internal and external rotate and pull these together and just mirror what you're doing, right? Now this one could come up, down. This one could come up, work on my rotation. I could bring them both to the same position. You can play around with it. The important thing is that you have intent in all your movement, okay? Intent in the flex. Rotate. Intent in the flex. Close the fist. Intent in the flex. Keeping that tension as you go out and rotate. The whole time I'm keeping that tension in the flexion of my wrist, and I'm trying to keep my elbow as straight as possible. Okay? I'm opening. I'm coming low. I'm meeting in the middle. Changing my rotations. Maybe coming over my head, meeting in the middle. Coming back down. Coming back to the front. Opening up and shaking out. Okay? The important thing here is that when you flex, keep flexing. Hold that for a minimum of 5 seconds before you relax it. Do that in different planes of motion. We have a tendency of doing everything in front of us. Everything you do in everyday life, for the most part, is here, okay? If you're writing, if you're typing, if you're washing dishes, everything you do is here. So we're generally pretty good in this plane of motion. It's when we go into unnatural planes where we have weakness and instability, and that's what we're trying to get rid of here. We're trying to put ourselves into planes of motion that we're not naturally in, and build that strength and stability in different planes of motion with intent in our movement, okay? And that should help us a long way in jiu-jitsu, because our opponents are constantly trying to put us in planes of motion we don't belong in, right? I'll use a Kimura as an example, right? My opponent is trying to put my arm into this position, and he's trying to drive my elbow higher than my shoulder where it doesn't belong, and then bend it behind my back where it doesn't belong. So if I can build up stability throughout that full range of motion, right, I'm gonna be able to maybe withstand it a little bit longer, maybe defend it a lot better, okay? I'm not gonna be so quick to just tap from that unnatural position, okay? So this was wrist focused, but by putting it into opposite planes with the rotation, we're helping bring our shoulder into it a little bit as well, okay? And that's it for the wrist flexion, extension, and the opening and closing.